Hello and welcome to this very festive episode of the Testing Peers. Tonight we're going to have a bit of fun related to Christmas, and we've got some friends joining us as well. Before I introduce everyone, just a quick thank you to our sponsor. So we're kindly sponsored by Saffron QA. They are a provider of recruitment and consultancy services exclusive for the software testing industry. More details can be found in the show notes. So tonight, as always, I'm joined by David.
Hello.
Chris.
Ho, ho, ho.
Russell.
Hello.
And we've got some friends with us tonight. So David.
Hiya.
Beth.
Hello.
Bruce.
Hey.
And Shay.
Hey, everyone.
And I believe Chris has got some festive fun for us.
Festive fun always makes it sound a bit bad. I really wanted just to say to everybody, I love Christmas and I love Christmas songs, but some of them are quite annoying. So I wanted just to know from you, really, of the Christmas songs, which ones do you have to actually skip when they play?
I'm not a big fan of Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues. I don't like that very much.
Russell gave us a big X, but I don't know whether he's disagreeing with you or he doesn't like the song. Podcast gold,
I might make some enemies there, but that's my least favourite one.
You prefer the Ronan Keating version?
I don't like any version. I just don't like the song.
I like the song, but yeah, I get people don't like it though. You're allowed, David. You have my permission.
We'll let you off.
I cannot stand 8 Days of Christmas by Destiny's Child, having worked in retail over the festive period and hearing it about 57 times a day during a shift. So it just brings, like, I've got a muscle memory now. If that intro comes on, change the radio station or skip.
I hadn't thought about that song in years, Dave. Thanks.
Enjoy. It's horrible.
He will, that's the problem.
I look forward to all the YouTube videos you're now going to send me over Facebook of that.
What about you, Shay? You're about to talk.
Yeah, no, that's Send the Cavalry in it. I've never really been a big fan of it. It doesn't get me.
I don't have least favourites. My favourite kind of song is an annoying song. I'm the kind of person who will, like, you know that Trollololol song by Edward Coyle? I used to listen to that on repeat for like 10 hours straight while studying for exams. The more annoying a song is, the more like earwormy it is, the better. I need it in my brain.
You get on really well with Chris, because Chris is a big fan of annoying songs.
Yeah, I do get along quite well with Chris, and we do talk about very annoying songs.
We know about Chris and Bruce's love of annoying songs.
Yeah, Shay has to sit with both of us at the same time.
We sing to him sometimes.
We do.
I knew there was a reason I didn't join that testers chat.
Yeah, yet I still pitch up.
Beth, what about you? Have you got any songs that you particularly need to skip when they come on at Christmas time?
Any song that talks about being lonely, I don't like as a Christmas song. Lonely This Christmas by Mud is a classic example. Yeah, I don't want to think about being lonely at Christmas. I want to think about Kelly Clarkson being underneath the tree and all sparkly and lovely and awesome. So, yeah, that gets a skip from me.
Simon.
I like most of the Christmas songs, but Mariah Carey gets a skip from me. I think I struggle with that one. It's just so overplayed that it's got to
It's a
the point now.
bold choice.
It is a bold choice, deliberately.
What about the version of that song that's in Love Actually?
Good point. I don't mind the version that's in the film. Yeah, it's not a case of hating the song. It's a case of it being overplayed, and it just gets to a point where I just don't want to listen to that anymore.
I think the only one that I'm skipping at the moment is Robbie Williams' new COVID Christmas song.
Oh, has he done a new one?
Yeah, Dave kindly brought that into my life. Thanks, Dave.
Sorry, Chris.
Not like this. I listened to it. I was like, no, it's just, no. It feels like he's capitalizing on a pandemic, which I guess a lot of people are. But on that amazing move, that what we're going to do is we are going to look at something called RiskStorming. Now, for those of you who don't know what RiskStorming is, you probably don't follow me on Twitter because I chat about it a bit. Essentially, it's making use of the test sphere cards that you can grab from Ministry of Testing's store and using them to get a bunch of important stakeholders around the table to identify top 5 or 6 main quality aspects of a particular feature or a project or whatever sort of size thing you're doing the session with And what you're looking for is, once you've identified what's the most important things, you then look at the risks. So it's like brainstorming, but risks. So RiskStorming. There's now an online tool that we're going to use called RiskStorming Online. Smooth. And I'm going to share my screen with everyone. You're going to have to listen to us. So hopefully we'll remember to talk. And we're going to do something along the lines of RiskStorming Santa's Christmas. Santa's Christmas. He always says Christmas, right? Santa's 2020. That makes a much smoother move. The pitch here is, in case you weren't aware, in 2020 there is a pandemic that, despite several vaccines, including one that was sponsored by Dolly Parton, we are still at the point where the pandemic remains rife and people are catching things left, right and centre, and we're also at the height of general cold and these sorts of things. And this is also damaging production lines and many other things. And we are a bit concerned that it's going to have an impact on poor Santa's 2020. How is he going to be able to see the children in the grotto? How is he going to be able to get all of his presents ready in time? How is he going to be able to deliver them on time? So what we need to do is try and identify the most important things and then see how we can mitigate those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
It might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, perhaps.
You think?
So please feel free to pitch up. Now, we've got a bunch of different things here. I'm going to just go over the cards for you to have a quick look. And we've got to try and identify 5 or 6 of the most important things. So we've got accessibility, adaptability, availability, business value, capability, changeability, clarity, complexity, concurrency, confidentiality, data, functionality, impartiality, installability. Well, it's not really software, but we'll be creative. Internationalization, observability, operations, performance, resource management, safeguarding, scalability, security and permissions, stability, structure, testability, and user friendliness. Does anybody want to pitch in with something that they believe would be a quality aspect for Santa this year?
Santa in the aspect of delivering presents on Christmas Eve, or just Santa's ability to do
Specifically
any of it?
this year, all of his jobs for this year. This
Okay.
is the Santa project. We've only got
performance would be the one that jumps out at me.
I'm going for concurrency. I feel like he's going to need to be doing a lot of.
Yeah.
Internationalization.
I was
for
going to
me.
say internationalization because he's got to look at all trends in all the countries.
Well, bear in mind that he also has St. Nicholas Day, which is last week, right?
Oh, how about observability for seeing who's naughty or nice?
Oh,
Impressive.
But Tesco say that there's no naughty list this year.
who honestly believes Tesco in anything that they say?
Because they're a reliable source of truth, aren't they?
I was only saying there's operations for the production of, I don't know, all the kit he's got to distribute. Right?
Well, let's throw it in. And then what we'll do is once we've got to 6, we'll start having a bit of a chat about whether we need to swap any out.
About user friendliness.
I guess at the grotto he has users, but otherwise he doesn't really ever see his users and they can't really give him feedback. But give him requests, right?
Depends, because there's all this technology out there now where you can get video messages from Santa.
Especially in COVID times. Yeah, that's
I've got
true.
a post box for Santa Claus down my street. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he's still having to be user friendly.
Everything has a trust pilot, surely.
Just relevant.
It must
Do you not
be
have to
one.
buy something from Santa in order to be able to have a trust pilot?
We probably need some security then if he's got all these grottos and things down
Yeah.
the road. And
Definitely safeguarding as well. Oh, there's more than 6.
Oh,
and
gosh.
how many movies are there where Santa's sleigh gets stolen? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
More often
That
than
is
not,
true.
doesn't he?
You have to opt out of GDPR for when you send him a letter with your details. Surely he has
Well,
to.
it's only when you're in the EU, Dave. This is our last time we're going to be in the EU, so we'll just...
Santa's still operating in the EU.
Can I also suggest that data might be included, and also what's the one that's right next to data? Scroll up a second. And confidentiality, because does Santa need to scan the NHS test and trace every time?
If you noticed, by the way, guys, we've now got 7 out of 6. It's a bonus.
Good maths.
I managed to get it to 8 out of 6, but
A
it
one
might
each.
have
We're going
broken
to boundary
down.
test it and see where it falls
It's
over.
okay. I mean, why have explicit rules when you can sort of trust people.
What are the ones at the top?
Sorry, yes, let's go. So we've got accessibility, adaptability, availability, because I think a lot of things like concurrency and stuff can sort of fall into some of those things. I think you can make arguments for complexity or impartiality, because he has to. Is he impartial though, or does he just, if you're not nice, game over?
Well, it's Cole, isn't it? It is game over. So he's not impartial at all. It's either good or bad. And
So, okay, we won't include impartiality.
he's
in what
not
he does.
impartial at all.
Resource management then. I mean, he's
Looking after the elves, you mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
Hasn't he got a scope?
He's
Wait a
in
second,
e-commerce.
we're not calling elves resources, are we, Simon?
Well, they're underlings, right?
I'm thinking more the resources that they make the toys from.
Right.
Ah,
Sorry.
that kind of resources as well.
So
Yeah, I guess.
We can't go to 8 out of 6.
Oh, I won't let you.
So what we need to do is let's review what we've got and then make a decision as to whether we need to put anything else. We've got performance, safeguard, confidentiality.
Let's just talk through each one then and see what the value add is by having it.
Okay, performance.
So I said that one because in the current scenario, his ability to do the job in the same time frame as he would usually do it will probably be impacted. He's got to take all these extra precautions with wearing a mask and hand sanitizer at each house and et cetera, et cetera. There's an extra level of time it's going to take. If you add that up over the millions of kids he's got to deliver presents to, that's a significant amount of extra time he's got to cover.
Will the speed of the reindeer be reduced by the fact that they have to wear masks? Or are they exempt?
Do they have to wear masks outdoors? It depends on each different country, surely.
I don't think animals have to wear them though, right? Dogs don't wear them. So
Okay, so that's good. I'm glad that's...
But it's still the case of whether it's the mask itself, whether that impacts Santa's ability to breathe easily, although they claim the masks don't cause breathing problems. It's more a case of adding all the extra steps he's got to do at each house.
Eating a mince pie and everything with his masks on is going to be...
He's got to spray it first before he eats it. He's got to spray it with antibac or whatever it is before
Spray
he
the
eats it.
mince pie?
Santa is going to be high risk
is.
because
Yes.
not only is he overweight, but he's also
He's really old. Yeah, absolutely. He's a super spreader as well.
I
yeah.
was wondering
Type
whether
2 diabetes.
would he be the prime target for the first vaccine, and was he part
Well,
of the
actually,
pilot?
yes. That is a good point.
We don't know that
because they can
details.
keep it super cold.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
in the North Pole, right?
Perhaps Santa has made the vaccine at the North Pole.
Maybe Santa's never been ill. He's never missed Christmas, has he? Therefore, maybe he's not.
Well-
He's immune to all these diseases anyway.
We don't know that.
I don't remember a history lesson where they said that one year Santa didn't show up.
When
for
did you have
anyone.
Santa in your history lessons?
I went to a special school.
Didn't you?
All teachers do special lessons at Christmas.
Surely, though, it would be in history if it had happened, because that would go down in history. The year that Santa didn't show up for anyone. No one got presents.
He doesn't get out much during the year, so his immunity would be probably quite low. All of us with kids, we know when after school holidays,
Yeah.
children go back to school, they come and they
Straight
bring back
back
all
with
of
a
their
cold, yeah.
viruses. So he definitely needs to be inoculated as soon as possible, I think.
I don't think that Santa does keep away from everyone all the rest of the year, because you're saying that all the kids go on holidays away from the school and they come back with loads of illnesses, and every single one of those kids, their houses have been visited by Santa. He is the common denominator there. Surely we can assert that he's probably just spreading.
Now, I'm just going to put this out there. We might have done a segue.
We would never do that, Chris.
We'd never do that.
Your consent.
A tangent, never.
Wow.
Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw us a timer of 5 minutes to make our decisions on our quality aspects.
Look at you keeping us to the rules for once.
I could save us a while now and say we've got performance, and when I talked about concurrency, actually some of that comes into performance, so we don't need performance and concurrency.
Let's
We
throw
can just take
concurrency
it
out and just we'll include performance in the whole kit and caboodle. Dave, you were going to say something a minute ago, and I feel like we
Yeah, I was just saying with performance, if we're looking end to end, obviously Santa's had to observe all the social distancing in the workplace in Lapland with all the elves and that. So I presume he's probably had less of them in, and it's probably slowed down production a bit.
Does anyone know how much Lapland was impacted by the virus? Did it sort of take it down completely like it did everywhere else?
But I mean, if he's got more than 100 employees, right, working
Oh, yeah.
Are they employees? I don't know, is it a sweatshop? I'm not sure what I don't know what it's classed as.
Do we know whether elves can catch COVID or not? I think that needs to come into the factor as
I
well.
don't know, they didn't cover that in order, so...
We'll take that away and we'll ask stakeholders to clarify that before we actually begin working on that. I was thinking perhaps safeguarding confidentiality might perhaps be things that you could wrap under one. So safeguarding It says what's keeping the bad guys out, right? But obviously we're trying to let the good guy in because Santa's a good guy. But also with safeguarding, I guess we could also include making sure that everyone is safe if we're going to be more artistic with our license. And Santa's got to be safe in the grottos. You've got to let the right people in to go and see Santa still if they are allowed. Certain things have been cancelled. The internationalization, which we are covering in a different ticket, is different countries will have different rules to allow people in or not. I wondered if we could pull one of them out to try and get one of the other pieces in. What do we think?
I think remove confidentiality.
Yeah, Santa doesn't need to be confidential, does he?
Do you think it's important for clarity that people actually know that they've got their present from Santa?
That's an assumption, isn't it? If they get presents under the tree, it's from Santa.
A lot of labels are on presents, right? I mean, I get a chocolate orange from Santa every year. It definitely says from Santa. He's got the same handwriting as my cat used to have.
I think this is important because I think increasingly as of late in the last decade, there's been a massive increase in cheating, awful, horrible parents putting their own names on presents and actually just going, taking the tags that Santa's put on there and putting their own tags on and saying love from mum and dad, taking the credit. I think, there does need to be a big campaign to improve the clarity of actually who is purchasing these gifts.
We've got a minute and a half left approximately of this particular section. We've got performance. We've discussed that quite a lot. Safeguarding, I was a little bit artistic with those things. We've got clarity. I think that is important because people shouldn't be taking credit for Santa's great work. Operations, is this around the manufacture of the presents? Is that what you were thinking? Was it Russell you came up with that, or was it Dave?
I was an advocate for it. Yeah, I was thinking the production process and those operations rather than the logistics of getting the stuff out.
I guess it does include the logistics as well, doesn't it? And
it does, yeah.
Making sure the reindeer have got enough magic food to get them through the sky at the right speed, etc., etc.
Let alone the elves having enough food to keep them going.
Yeah, that's
over
true.
Time.
I wonder how much the process is automated nowadays.
Well, let's not have an automation discussion now, Simon. Internationalization, we've sort of touched on a bit. There are time zones to manage. I'm sure there's a time plan that he goes to.
Well, he's used to the time zone.
There was a switch not that long ago when American Samoa changed from having the same time zone as the other Pacific Islands to share a time zone with the United States. So all of a sudden, they were getting Christmas a whole day later. Change of schedule.
But I guess there's the additional thing of all the international laws now of export, import from...
Yeah, and like safe lists for travel. Also quarantining for 14 days.
He'll have to be careful about which country he says he's coming from when he goes to the next country, I guess, won't he?
Was it Ireland in Parliament, I think it was saying that he's essential travel, so he can bypass all the sort of quarantine rules.
Yeah, definitely essential travel.
I think New Zealand said the same recently as well.
Yeah,
they're good like that, the Kiwis.
So the last one we've got is observability. Was this to uncover the naughty and nice list? Was that the thought with observability?
We're bending the rules of what observability is there slightly, aren't we?
We are taking artistic license, Simon.
I mean, we've taken artistic license with all of the other ones as well, so I don't know why we have to stop now.
That's true.
There's no reason to be the voice of in this call.
Surely observability, it's almost the opposite of that. Santa's aim is to not be observed, and buy the ticket as how well can you see what's actually going on within the product. I mean, that's presence. You shouldn't be able to see what's going on inside the product.
Well, he should be able to make sure, as recently seen in the film of Arthur Christmas, that he should be able to see that every present has been delivered and that when he gets home, there isn't any presents left over.
When I talked about this originally, I was talking about observing whether people have been naughty or nice when it was isolated.
You were, yes.
It's a multifaceted ticket, which is wonderful.
It is.
We are going to move on. I know you're excited.
So observability is making it into the 6th.
So we're going to move on to phase 2. So phase 2 is when we actually raised some risks. We've got a post-it note that's come along from Shay that says automate all the elves.
We can't put the elves out of work. Come on.
So just to loop back, we've got performance, internationalization, observability, operations, safeguard, and clarity. So we're going to start on performance. Give me your risks.
Additional restrictions and actions to be taken, add time to delivery.
What about anything else on performance? More houses to go to because less people are sharing households this Christmas.
Yeah, people are more likely to be
that.
Spread.
And has the population increased over the past 12 months?
I guess it'll increase again next year from all the people who've just been at home bored, nothing better to do.
The COVID babies.
It doesn't affect children as badly though, so I'm hoping that the child population won't have been affected too badly.
It's true.
Yeah, actually, that's true. It's only houses that have kids in that Santa delivers presents to, right?
No.
No.
How dare you say that?
Wow.
You say my presents aren't delivered by Santa?
And Russell falls off his chair.
Wow.
It's okay, Russell. He'll come.
Does that mean that all adults then are on the naughty list if they don't get presents? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah,
There's
totally.
a theory that once you get to a certain age, you stop believing if you don't believe in Santa.
Don't say the B word. You can't say the B word tonight.
So moving on to internationalization.
New route to avoid quarantine zones.
Nice.
Different restrictions
Different restrictions,
in
Yeah.
different areas.
Yeah, you'll need to carry different equipment for different countries.
Multiple passports needed.
Anything else for internationalization? I guess there haven't been any new languages this year, so that's quite nice. Just it's mostly restrictions and equipment, I think, is our main thing, plus the quarantine zones. So let's move on to observability.
Well, Santa's got to make sure he's not being seen.
Yeah.
Coming
Or heard wearing his extra PPE. He'll be rustling.
You'll
more,
rustle
won't he?
more.
Yeah.
and maybe wearing the face mask. His glasses might be steamed up. So
Oh yes,
Very good.
nice.
That's elf and safety, that is.
yeah, I speak from personal experience on that one.
So it's actually generally recognised that you should not wear a mask over a beard. It reduces the effectiveness of the mask, and so it might be that Santa actually has to shave his beard. Sorry to put that one out there, but it's true.
Surely you can just wear a screen thing.
Yeah, you could wear one of the plastic screens, couldn't you?
How
That's the point.
effective even are those things?
They're not effective at all. They're really effective at fogging up your face.
Yeah.
As far as naughty and nice, do you think he's got different parameters to judge these by? Because a lot of people have had like a bit of cabin fever over the summer and things like that.
Or if kids have been coughing on their grandparents or something, that'd be straight on the list.
Maybe he's got a higher tolerance because of all the other suffering.
I think maybe this year he's got to be a bit more lenient on some of the emotional outbursts that kids would have had, or adults would have had as well, I guess.
Especially with homeschooling from both, like you say, from both adults and kids.
Yeah.
Especially the adults in that particular case.
Yes, yes.
Let's move on to operations.
Else, if they can get COVID, some of them may be out for the counts,
Yeah.
down on the workforce.
Longer hours for the elves,
Yeah.
for the ones that are not down with it. Who knows? They might have had to make cuts as well.
Yeah.
The furlough scheme.
Hello, the elves. Yeah.
It's not a financial system, though, is it?
Well, they must be paid in some form.
Love.
They're paid in love, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, maybe Santa's got a limit on the amount of love he's got to give.
Only so much love to
Well,
give.
when they went on furlough, it's all right because the government paid them 80% of the love
the
that
love.
they'd been paid before.
I mean, receiving love from the government, there's nothing.
Boris's love must be very precious.
It depends what Lapland's policies were, because they wouldn't be capable of getting the UK system or the American or anyone else. It would depend upon the country they're in.
To be fair, looking at how many kids Boris Johnson's got, there's a lot of love to give, I think.
Do we have any more operations, or should we move on?
Yes, I have one. The operation of getting in and out on chimneys and things, it's been one of those years where you really eat a lot and not necessarily leave the house a lot. So he might be having a bit more of a struggle this year. But then I think he must have some kind of magic getting in and out of chimneys anyway, because I'm holding up my hands showing roughly the diameter of a 2-litre bottle of fizzy pop, which is how narrow some chimneys are.
Yeah, it gets down gas fires and things like that, where it's a small pipe, doesn't he? And even gets into houses without chimneys.
I'm a fan of the movie The Santa Claus, and everything just changes into a fireplace to fit Santa.
Okay, let's move on then. That was a good one, Bruce. Thank you. Safeguarding.
So my risk to this would be identifying all of the different cultural baddies and making sure they get kept out. So that might be Russian hackers doing something to the North Pole, or it might be, I don't know if anyone has heard of this guy, but this is a guy called Krampus.
Oh, yeah.
He's incredibly scary, described as half goat, half demon, who punishes children who have misbehaved by stuffing them in a sack and taking them to his lair. So, yeah, we need to safeguard against Krampus and the like, I think.
Who'd have thought kidnapping would be a risk?
Yeah, it's actually a blessing,
Santa
right?
does carry a sack with him all times, doesn't he? Think about that. That's
Yes.
a bit risky. So safeguarding also, I would say children at grottos is a thing. And also with Zoom, Santa, think about it. There's snooping over Zoom.
Got to be careful where the child is.
Yeah.
And also where Santa is, to be honest. I hope he dresses up for the occasion.
Well, yeah, or doesn't stand up. Let's move on to clarity. This is around the risk, Bruce. I think that you said that this is parents unlawfully claiming that they got the present for the child.
People complain about social media and all these things being modern scourge on society, but this is it. This is the main one. Parents falsely claiming Santa's gifts to their children to gain the love of their children that they clearly don't deserve.
Do you think this also takes place the other way around, where sometimes people think they've got a PlayStation from Santa while someone else, they maybe only got a sweater? And this is where parents are actually getting it wrong and actually claiming things are from Santa when really it's not. And then people thinking, well, Santa likes me more than them.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the naughty list? So if it's a naughty list, then the parents feel that they have to purchase something for the child.
I mean, that's not going to encourage a child to be better next year, is it?
No, true.
Positive reinforcement of negative behaviour.
Regardless of who's claiming it, the labels have to be clear.
Yeah.
You've got to be using labels that don't fall off and things.
Like they could be heat resistant or things like this. I mean, it's like clearly positioned under the tree.
Yeah.
Some people don't use Christmas trees in some countries, right?
No.
Yes.
That's down to Santa to know the rules and the culture of each country, right?
Yeah, well, he's got to write in different languages and everything as well.
Yeah, these aren't new risks for this year, though, are there?
No.
We're going into standard Santa risks. I'm sure he already has lots of abilities to sort these out.
Because he's going to have to quarantine the items there before he delivers them this year.
Would you say that's under the safeguarding? Do you think it's worth us putting that there?
I think so.
You think there's additional risk with the wrapping of the presents now? Has Santa got to make sure he's wearing gloves, or the elves got to wear gloves when they're wrapping it? They've got to make sure it's sprayed down and sanitized before it's sent out the door.
COVID safe.
Exactly.
Slowing down.
An extra stamp on the approval list.
Okay, what we'll do now is we will just have a quick recap and before we ensure that we export and send these things off. So we've got underperformance, we've got additional restrictions and actions to be taken, time to delivery being the metric that we will be following on those things for all you Accelerate fans out there. More houses to visit, potentially, because fewer households should be able to mix this year, although in this country I kind of don't believe a lot of people are going to stick to that rule anyway.
I would agree with that.
Then internationalization. So there'll be new routes to avoid certain quarantine zones. I guess the flight paths are probably a bit clearer this year. Simon, you might be able to tell us that.
Well, yeah, the number of flights on the itinerary is about 20%, it usually is. So, yeah, you'd imagine the skies are clearer.
He actually might be able to go around a bit quicker because the main lines that the planes would have taken might not actually be populating the sky this year. So he might need to avoid them because they won't be there.
There is that, but like I say, it depends how much extra time if he can make up time in that, then the extra time of all the sanitization and stuff of each house and et cetera, that he has to do, then that it might cancel each other out. So it may not be an issue.
Okay, and then there's obviously different restrictions and different equipment required in different countries. In the United States, obviously, in some places that's none because apparently some people don't really care. That's not just about the United States. I'm just picking on them because they're in the news all the time.
Here's a question. I'm not sure it relates to internationalization, but with PPE, it's a one-time use thing, isn't it? So does that mean every house is seen as a one-time use and he has to change it after each house?
It is for the NHS.
Wow, if he's doing that, he's going to have a second sleigh, isn't he?
Exactly. He's going to have so much more stuff it's just for PPE.
He's going to need a bigger bag.
He only needs to change his PPE if he touches anything in the house with PPE, right? If he really slips down the chimney, keeps his hands to himself, holding the sack, and then slips the gift down underneath without touching.
What about the snacks and the drinks? Are they just going to get left?
So what he can do is he can get his ear hoops and pull them off to get his mask off very briefly, and then use his mouth to pick up and eat the snack without touching it with his hands, and then slip the mask back
Or
on.
you can just build an invention to do it.
To drink a drink, he could always have his own personal straw and use a straw to drink the drink.
We have slipped slightly into mitigations at this point, guys.
Apologies.
Point out. So we'll move on to observability anyway. So not being seen or heard in extra PPE, additional things we talked about that. There might be extra noise, ruffles. The noise of various PPE could be a lot more. He might lose some up a chimney. Might come off as he's poofing down. Glasses steaming up. Does Santa wear glasses?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I think he does.
He's not tried LASIK or anything yet.
He's got to read those labels, isn't he, Chris, that we were talking about?
He's very old.
You could try contact, surely.
I don't think it works well with.
I was thinking he might have had laser eye surgery at this point.
Yeah, but even with laser eye surgery, sometimes you need reading glasses and stuff.
Maybe the labels could just be bigger and more clear. We've got elf and safety. Thank you, David. No mask over the beard. Bruce, you mentioned that one. Maybe Santa has to shave his beard off, and maybe that might be the most truly horrifying thing we've ever seen in our lives. So Santa without a beard. Imagine if the shape of his chin was actually like Desperate Dan, and the beard was only just as slight as possible. We're not supposed to see him, obviously, but I mean, the number of instances in movies where people have seen him, he seems to have generally the same sort of clothing.
Or even worse, if he's truly chinless.
See him at the grotto, yes. Chinless would also be quite scary. Change to his tolerance as well. When we looked at observability, we were looking about children being naughty and perhaps being allowed to be a little bit more naughty this year due to circumstances.
Yeah, it's definitely different thresholds this year.
I've definitely lost it a bit quicker this year, I'll be honest with you.
Actually, going back to the beard thing, I don't think it actually matters if he's had a shaved beard, because you could wear a mask and then put a false beard over the top.
A master with a beard.
A mask with a
Beard
beard.
mask, I like it.
There were a bunch of grottos that were going to try and be COVID safe, where they'd actually woven a mask into the beard that Santa would be wearing. But those places still won't be open this year, sadly.
Well, we're going to see Santa next weekend, so hopefully that's still open.
I'll say hi from us.
I will do. I'll let him know.
You can actually, I'll export the PDF and give it to you, and you can pass it on to him.
Yeah, I'll do that.
The operations aspect, we've got the elves. If they can catch COVID, we need to get that. I think that risk assessment needs to be carried out pretty soon if we haven't already got it. The elves may be working longer hours. There might have been some furloughed. We need to worry about their own health. Is that going to damage the quality of the goods that they're doing, the wrapping, all of these sorts of things, if they're under more stress?
Is he not going to also have massive problems if any households are isolating?
There is that as well, yeah.
Like, what's he going to do? Just lob it through a window?
I was also thinking about delivering to hospitals for people who are unfortunately quarantined in hospital. That's a tough one.
It is. So, I mean, there's not chimneys in every house either. So where there are chimneys, him being able to fit down them, if he's added a few extra pounds. I was looking back at some of my resolutions. I only had 2 this year, and my resolution 1 was to snack less, and that's gone to pot absolutely this year. I've snacked way more. So I can imagine Santa snacking a little bit more. And COVID safe operations in the area where toys are made and wrapped and stuff, perhaps being slowed down in order to be made safe. You know, social distancing and all those sorts of things as well could damage the effectiveness or proficiency of these things.
Plus the elves are probably drinking more.
Who could blame
True,
them?
Yeah.
We could blame them.
And he's got to order specially sized masks for the elves, isn't he? I don't think they're off the peg.
Well, you can get kid-sized ones. I mean, look, on the safeguarding, we've got identifying different cultural baddies that Beth raised up, and it's a very good point. We've got children at the grottos. How safeguarded are they? Is Santa DBS checked here? What about all the other places where they need to be checked? What about sort of copycats and things? I seem to recall in one movie he was taken to court. So these things are certainly things that could be on his permanent criminal record. Is that going to be a problem?
He must have a DBS issued by the UN or something like that, surely.
Maybe, but not even every country is actually recognised by the UN either. I mean, that's that moves on to international internationalisation.
Yeah, but then also not every country celebrates Christmas. Does that mean Santa doesn't visit them?
Well, I mean, some countries, obviously, they celebrate St. Nicholas Day earlier in December, and Santa visits then.
Sure, most countries have at least one person who might celebrate Christmas within them.
Yes, probably.
That's a fair point.
Then we've got the virtual grottos where they could be potentially snooping over Zoom, people being let into their houses virtually, and those sorts of things can be quite risky. I know some people that have refused to join Zoom calls because they don't trust Zoom. They'll use Facebook and all those other things like nobody's business, but Zoom, ooh, bad guys.
Much safer on Facebook.
Absolutely. Quarantining of presents, perhaps over a certain period of time to ensure that any residual germs and stuff are not there anymore. And then finally, clarity, parents unlawfully claiming that they got that present for their child, or vice versa, where they give their child presents and stuff. And maybe they use the coal, just burn it or something, I don't know. And make sure that there's very clear labels, who it's from and who it's to and all those things. I don't know if you've ever opened a present that wasn't meant for you. It's a bit embarrassing. This would bring the conclusion to our initial phase. We're not going to look at mitigating those things because we actually aren't Santa, but Simon will be delivering this to Santa, which is very kind of him. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
I'll take this to him next week.
We are able at each phase within RiskStorming to actually export to PDF. It's very useful, and then you can read all these sorts of things. We might even share this on the accompanying blog for this pod. Wouldn't that be exciting? So that kind of brings the end to these sorts of bits. Are there any sort of questions about the RiskStorming that you have whilst you're here?
When you do a normal risk storming session, do you have recommended times for actually doing each phase? So I guess if you're in a standard-ish Scrum team of, let's say, 12 people or something like that.
That's not a standard team.
Large team.
I realised that as I said standard, I was like, this is not right.
This is inclusive of also stakeholders. So I guess if you include like all kinds of stakeholders, then 12 might be a good number.
If you're having a session like this, what sort of recommended timings would you go for each phase?
It would depend on the size of that which you are risk storming. So if it was a particular product as a whole or an event, you can imagine it would be a bit bigger than perhaps if you were just implementing a new feature. So say, for example, you were going to change the way you display your front end on a website. That's the only bit. So none of the functionality at the back end is going to change. You're just doing the front end. That would be a lot smaller perhaps, than if you were actually introducing a totally brand new feature that would require sort of top to bottom implementation. So you kind of got to take into account the sort of size of these things. So it may be that you've already estimated via t-shirt size or something the size of said epic or project or sort of thing, and that might well inform how long you need, because the smaller the thing that you're risk storming, the shorter in theory you might need to do each round. Typically when we do it, we would do phases 1 and 2 in one session with more people, and then be a bit more granular in phases 3 and 4. Just so people know, phase 3 includes all the rest of the risk storming cards, which cover many exciting things from techniques, patterns, heuristics, observability, dealing with change, all these cards. And you look to those cards to see how it is that you would mitigate those things. And it may be that you're quite repetitive on some of the things you would do to mitigate those, which actually will help inform you with patterns that you will see and go, right, this is clearly an important thing because it's turned up in 4 or 5 different instances of things that we should do to mitigate those risks.
Cool. That's interesting.
And then phase 4 is when you try to come up with, as a team, actions thereafter. Who owns them? How do you measure if it's been successful or not?
When do you find this most successful? Obviously, you can do this for an entire piece of software or just a feature. Do you find yourself using it more for features at the moment or nowadays or in the past? I've not been in roles where I've had a chance to do many risk storm sessions or any, to be honest.
It's possible to do it for pretty much anything. If you were going to do, like, say, for example, a new process in your company, you could potentially do phase 1 and 2 quite comfortably with those things. We've shown you can have a bit of artistic license to sort of meet head on particular things in these ways. You can also do this as a customer facing thing. So certainly phase 1 and 2, you could actually do and identify from your customer. Say you bring in a new customer and they've got this particular request. This can help inform you what the most important, the quality aspects are for your customer. How great is that if we actually already know what the things that are most important to them are before we even start implementing that sort of stuff? It helps alongside things like personas to come up with those things. So it does depend on the kind of business you're working in, but typically we do introduce new things all of the time.
If Santa HQ had been the ones running this risk storming session, not saying that we're not Santa HQ. Sure, yeah. Who would they have invited here? Who are the stakeholders and people that they would need to bring into a risk storming session?
But you would have had to have an elf representative, wouldn't you?
At least one. We don't know if there's different types of elves that do different roles and functions.
Yeah. Someone from the supply chain?
Yeah, someone from wrapping, someone from manufacturing.
Would Mrs. Claus be there?
She's got to be the boss.
For his well-being, definitely, yeah.
Someone from the reindeer from the stables?
Yeah. You need to have someone that's a representative for all the kids and stuff that he
UNICEF
gives presents to.
Do you think that UNICEF is having a risk storm session with Santa about this right now?
I like to think that if they weren't, they will do now, having seen the great success that I think we have had here tonight.
Indubitably.
Indubitably.
That's the first time I've ever said that word.
It could be another thing that we add to Simon's list of delivery. He can bring it to Santa and then to the World Health Organization and UNICEF.
Hang on a minute. That's a bit of a different trip to just go into a grotto.
We'll get you a little write-up. You can give a little speech and say, right, Santa, before we do the normal spiel where you just like say, have you been good this year? And all these presents. Here's a few things for you. Anyway, Dave.
I was just saying, I feel like Cliff Richard would probably need to be involved in anything to do with Christmas. He's normally in the background, isn't he?
He's had a couple of Christmas number ones for sure, yeah.
Yeah, by that measure, then Mariah Carey. So, I mean...
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey does mention Santa. Cliff's more on the Jesus end of Christmas than...
Mariah Carey had Santa in her video, didn't she?
Yeah, well, was it the Santa?
Well, yeah.
I mean, Santa's agent then would have to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's true.
Noddy Holder's another one. He's a big authority on Christmas.
Well, he is and he isn't now, because obviously he's part of a religion that doesn't believe in the whole Christmas thing. He's just there for the money these days. We could talk about this for a very long time, but let's probably let David do the outro and then we can wind down thereafter.
Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for a very productive discussion for Santa, and thank you to Simon for taking the detail to him. And if anyone else is listening when this is actually recorded, if you could forward this podcast to Santa, then that would very much be appreciated, because then we can all have a safe and happy Christmas. Thank you to our guests, Bruce, Beth, Shay and Dave, for their input. It's been a great pleasure having you on, and I hope you've all enjoyed it yourselves. If you have any feedback based on this episode of Risk Storming and or how we as adults can help Santa be COVID safe this year, then please do get in touch through email at contactus@testingpeers.com. You can also contact us through Twitter and the various other feeds that we have access to. If you'd like to support us, like some of the people here tonight on Patreon, then please do go to the site of patreon.com/testingpeers, where there are various tiers that you can sign up to help support us. And also thank you again to Saffron QA for supporting us as well through this COVID times. So thank you very much for listening. And from us, we'd just like to say Happy Christmas. I hope that you have a safe and COVID-free Christmas, and that Santa Claus does bring you everything you wished for, because we have made sure today that he will have a safe and happy journey to each and every one of your homes.
So for now, from Testing Peers and Friends, it's
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.